New Testament 8. Why are there 4 Gospels? First steps Catholics. Why are there 4 Gospels? In fact, there have been many more Gospels that have been written. They are much more numerous. But only 4 Gospels were kept by the first Fathers of the Church, by the first Councils, as being canonical. The others have been declared apocryphal Gospels. In these apocryphal Gospels, some are of very high quality. I think of Jacques' Proto-Gospel, which tells the story of the Virgin Mary's childhood. Well, some of the features of this story that say that at the age of 4 or 5, presented in the Temple of Jerusalem, she devoted herself to it with all her heart, were kept by the Church. And this is the feast of Mary's presentation to the Temple, and yet it is not a canonical Gospel. Others, on the contrary, are absolutely false and date back to the 4th century. These are the Gnostic Gospels, for example. There was a lot of it. At one time, then at its beginning, at this end of the Roman Empire, doctrines from the Orient, Plato in particular, said that there were 2 gods. A god of evil who created the body and a good God who created the spirit and had to get rid of the body to finally join the spirit. It was something, of course, perverse. Nevertheless, it has done a lot of harm to the Church, and some have gone so far as to say, like Marcion, a heretic, that the Old Testament was the book of the God of evil and that the New Testament was the book of the God of good. The Church condemned this by saying no, only one God X, except that in the Old Testament He purifies His people, and sometimes with good spankings. Well, among the Gnostic Gospels, one of the best known is that of Judas. The Gospel of Judas tells that Jesus would have asked his dear friend Judas, his favorite disciple, to deliver him to the Romans, so that he would be killed and his soul, freed from his body, could ascend to heaven. It is something that is absolutely against the Catholic faith. The body comes from God. The physical love of a married man and woman who give themselves to each other comes from God. So why 4 Gospels now, and why not 1, written by Jesus? Jesus did not write anything. He sent His Holy Spirit, promising that He would inspire the apostles, so that they would mark only what He would like in the texts they would write, concerning the doctrine of salvation. 4 people, only 2 of whom apparently would have known Jesus, Matthew, the publican no doubt, and John, on the other hand, the disciple whom Jesus preferred, a very young man who attended the cross, and 2 others who did not know Jesus, Mark, who was undoubtedly a disciple of Saint Peter, and Luke, a doctor who did his investigation. They wrote the story. For 3 of them, they copied themselves from Mark and put into their Gospel everything they had learned. These are the Synoptic Gospels. And for John, he wrote towards the end of his life, on his own, with his memories and his meditation. Traditionally, from a text from the Apocalypse that says that 4 living beings prostrated themselves before God, each of these Gospels has been given the symbol of one of those living. For Jean it was obvious, the eagle. Why? Because he is the most contemplative of the Gospels, and an eagle with his piercing eye sees from afar. So it's the eagle. For Luke, I thought we had attributed the face of man because it is the only one who tells so much in detail the childhood of Jesus. Actually no. He is credited with beef. Because he speaks at a given moment of a sacrifice. And it is to Matthew that the face of man is attributed because he gives the genealogy of Jesus, therefore, what incarnates Jesus in a whole human origin. And finally Mark, the lion because he shows the strength of Jesus who preaches. He is the Lion of Judas. So you have to know that these four attributions are questionable. We can exchange them. These are mystical attributions, by the Fathers of the Church, from details of the Gospel, but in reality, the four Gospels carry the four animals. They are contemplative, they indicate the sacrifice of Christ. So the bull indicates his strength, so the lion, finally indicates that he is God made man, it is the face of man.